Okay, we are back with the Out of the Cave podcast, and we have the woman, the myth, the legend here, Nicole Sachs. Thank you for being here again on the Out of the Cave podcast. We know it's a really big day. There's really big announcements coming out in this episode. So, what's up, friend? Great to have you back.
Like, nothing much. Like, it's just any normal day, whatevs. Um, oh, what is up? What is up is that I have probably crawled into a hole for the past 6 to 8 months and was writing a book, and, it's finally come out, so it's a pretty exciting day for me.
It is a huge day. So, before we get into anything, I'm actually going to go a little bit backwards with this. Can you tell me a little bit about the book that has been officially launched and is currently on pre order as this episode comes out?
Okay. Well, one thing I can say about the book is, as many of you guys know, if you have heard my name, I have been walking this road for over 20 years and I have learned a lot. And so I did my first self-published book I published it in 2012. I rewrote the whole thing and published a second edition in 2016. And it was what it was. A lot of people like it. Part memoir, part how to do this work. But one thing that I know was absent from it was real solid brain science and the what Dr. Sarno says is his prescription is knowledge, and the real knowledge behind why this is happening in your body, why chronic symptoms, whether they be migraines or fibromyalgia or irritable bowel, as you know well, or back, neck, shoulder, chronic fatigue, long COVID, all these things, why are they happening? What is going on? And in my first book, I knew it was true, but I didn't really have the words to explain it. So, it's sort of a little embarrassing how much I was like, just believe me, please believe me. I'm telling you, this has created my whole life. My whole life is available to me. And it was very heartfelt, but it wasn't backed up by a lot of evidence, and now I have, like, the most incredible thing, I can hold it in my hands, and I can hand it to someone, and I can say, "Every single thing you need to understand about the way I healed myself, about the way thousands and thousands of people around the world in these years that I've been doing this through my podcast and whatever, have healed themselves is here. The brain science, the steps to live in the solution and do the work for yourself, and all the inner child work and the self-compassion." So it's just exciting. It's exciting to have finally, like, my literary agent calls it my flag in the moon. Like, this is it. This is my
Yes.
life's work. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Very exciting. Okay, so everyone who's listening, this book is on pre-order right now. Sign up and get one or more than one. But thank you for starting there. I'm glad we started with that. Now, I want to go back a little bit for people who are listening to this who maybe, believe it or not, are not familiar with your work. Say a little bit more about who you are and what you do and what all of this is actually about. The movement.
Yes, the movement. So essentially this all began, and I will tell the story really briefly because I think probably most people have heard it. But when I was 19 and a freshman in college, I had what people would call my back went out. It's like I was on the floor, I couldn't get up, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was in terrible pain. My parents brought me home. I did the x-rays, the MRIs, and what they found is that I do have a finding. I have a spinal finding called degenerative spondylolisthesis, quite a mouthful, and because I had a finding, they assumed, which I can only imagine made a lot of sense in 1990, that sorry, yeah, no, it was 1990, that my abnormality was the reason for my pain. So I was told, don't lift anything and don't sleep on your stomach and make sure you don't ride in a car for more than an hour, don't bounce around. Like, there were a lot of guardrails on my life, but they said, if you do all this stuff, maybe you'll live to 40 without spinal fusion surgery, which was a very, very invasive surgery at the time. I don't know exactly how invasive it is now, but I know it's still a big deal. It decreases your mobility for life. And the thing is, they told me there was no guarantee that the surgery would take away my pain. And I was kind of like, I don't know. There was just something inside of me that knew there was, like, more to learn about my body. There was more to this story. And in the by and by, I found the work of Dr. John Sarno, who, if you don't know him, look him up, Sarno. He wrote many best-selling books on the mind-body connection. He's a medical doctor. And when he passed away a few years ago, after I had been lecturing with him at NYU and, already taking his patients into my private practice at the time, I was in clinical practice. He just said, this like, can you carry this message? Can you carry it on? And that has been my work. I help people with any chronic condition because one thing I help them understand is that even though in some people it expresses as migraines and in some people it expresses as stomach issues or pelvic pain or chronic fatigue, all of this chronic pain comes from a dysregulated nervous system that is reacting to the quote unquote danger of our repressed emotions and our stored trauma that puts us into a state of long term fight or flight. So essentially, my work is teaching people in a 3-step process, believe, do the work, and patience and kindness for yourself, how to move through looking in the places, unearthing and, going into your darkest rooms and turning on the light. And although this might sound to someone who isn't familiar with this work, like, why would this matter? It sounds like you're talking about psychology, or it sounds like you're talking about, woo woo, hippy dippy nonsense. The truth of the matter is, your brain and your nervous system perceive your repressed emotional world as a greater predator than physical pain. And that includes addiction, and that includes compulsive eating, and that includes anything that takes us away from the emotional experience of being alive because it is seen as dangerous, because it is seen as something we can't control and manage. And, and pain by its very nature is protective. I mean, I've been talking about this a lot today and I've been giving this example a lot. So if you've listened to more than one interview, I apologize. But, the fun fact is that if you break your ankle and you're running from a predator, until you will reach safety, you can run on that broken ankle and you will feel no pain. The brain is capable of withholding pain signals and the brain is capable of sending them depending on your level of safety. Now, once you reach safety and the predator is not able to get to you, your ankle will explode in pain because your body is looking to protect you. Your nervous system says if you don't feel this pain, you might not tend to yourself. And if you don't tend to yourself, you're going to die. And so, all the same stuff that was here, if you study evolutionary biology in early man and woman, is with us now. But the problem is the predators are our kids, our partners, our self worth, our fear about money, and those kind of things are not easily able to solve for. And so what are we able to solve for? Another doctor's appointment, another medical regimen, another alternative treatment. Like, believe it or not, when we are in that space of chronic anything, even if it's just chronic seeking, the nervous system goes back into equilibrium because it feels safer. And that's why I know, this podcast is generally focused around disordered eating and body image and the things that your expertise is around. And I really strongly, and Lisa and I have worked together for years, believe that the reason we can't get out of our patterns with our self-sabotage and with the fact that we, get on a plan and then, break our promises to ourselves is not because we're weak, and it's not because we lack self-control. It's because if the brain sees like you getting thin and being a light in the world as dangerous, it will send signals for you to go to the pantry. And like, this is something that I find both fascinating and honestly beautiful, to know how complex our brains are. But I also know that that is safe in the unsafest way. And nobody wants to be living where they feel like they can't make their own choices. And nobody wants to be living with chronic migraines or back pain or pelvic pain or long COVID. So this is a solution. This is a way to live in the solution.
Beautifully said. Thank you. So, yeah, I mean, the way that I understand it, as we've taught it before, there's the emotional reservoir. I think that's a very helpful concept for people, right? There's the emotional reservoir. And the way that I think about it, the little visual I have is there's this reservoir in the center of all of us. And then when that starts to overflow, for some people, that becomes symptoms of chronic physical pain in the body. For some people, it's addiction. For some
Mhm.
people, it's obesity, disordered eating, overeating, undereating, however that manifests. For some people, it's depression, anxiety.
Yeah,
For some people, it's all the above. But what you're
right.
saying is it's all, it's basically, it's all part of the same thing happening with the system of energy. I'm always saying the body is a mind, body, soul system of energy. So we're talking about the emotional reservoir is what it's at the root of it. And if
Yes.
you're struggling with overeating or compulsive dieting or undereating or body image, same idea. So
Yes.
can you explain how we can, like, step by step follow the thread? Okay. So, one example, I'm not even, people are so used to hearing me talk about disordered eating, but a big one that comes up, especially in your community, is body image, the preoccupation with body image, which I think is really, what is body image if not just perfectionism projected onto the
Yes.
physical body,
Yes.
right? The
Yes.
appearance. So, it's a very TMS personality type situation. Tell me how, if I'm someone who is really kind of obsessive and hyper fixated on my body image, how do I understand that as TMS? How do I follow the thread to the emotional reservoir and do the work for that?
So the best way to start this conversation about the emotional reservoir is to understand what it is. So I want you to picture that you have an invisible emotional reservoir that like starts just below your belly button and ends right in the middle of your chest. And you can picture like a clear science beaker, and in it is liquid, and that liquid represents your grief, your repressed terror, where like you were so scared and like you had no choice, you just had to go on anyway. Your despair, the times where you felt like I'm really, really deeply sad and like I don't know how to express that to people. Your untapped moments of rage where you were not safe to express your anger. Maybe your family was like, anger doesn't work here. You're not allowed to be angry. Dad is the anger for everybody in this family. Whatever it is, the 3 little, estuaries that are feeding this reservoir are your childhood stuff that you have not yet had time or understanding how to come to peace with, your daily life that is constantly triggering you into this fight or flight state where you feel like you have to dance as fast as you can to manage your life, and your personality, what Lisa just said, perfectionism. You always want to be seen as a good person. You're super worried about what other people think of you. Those are the 3 places where you are spending a lot of time repressing because you actually have no choice. Repression is a defense mechanism. Lisa and I have all the same degrees because defense mechanisms are named that for a reason. It defends you, it protects you. If we had to feel every single thing that occurred to us throughout a day, we would be literally paralyzed. So we repress a bunch of stuff, and that's fine, and that's not unhealthy. But the problem is, when you repress enough and when you have enough trauma that hasn't been dealt with, whether it's little t or capital T, it fills up this emotional reservoir and it reaches maximum density. And when it threatens to spill over and inform your conscious brain of how out of control or of how despairing or grieving or rageful you feel, the nervous system and the brain switch into long-term fight or flight, and protective signals are sent. So sometimes, like you said, that's the signals of a migraine starting, or that's the signals of your stomach seizing up in an IBS attack and you're in the bathroom for an hour. Like that's possible. But sometimes, depending on your personality and how effective this quote safety measure will be, it becomes perseveration and rumination about a specific thing, because one of the TMS equivalents is OCD, and it's very similar OCD to a preoccupation with your self-worth, with your body image,
Yeah.
okay? So, you may be in this place where your reservoir is overflowing, but this is the problem that people don't understand. Until it overflows, your reservoir is unconscious. So, chronic issues are not about what you feel, they are about what you actually don't feel. And so, if it's too unsafe to feel that childhood stuff that's getting triggered, or that perfectionism that is just unrelenting, it will not stop. But what you're used to feeling and what is familiar and habitual is, I'm such a piece of shit. Oh, I'm so fat. Oh my God, I can't go out. This outfit doesn't work. I'm going to change my outfit 20 times. Like, whatever it is that gets you in terms of body image, that becomes your chronic symptom. And the reason, and you feel like a failure because you're like, why can't I get myself to stop being preoccupied by this? But you're not a failure. This is your nervous system sending you to a place of safety because the brain loves familiarity. And so, all of this to say, you are not a failure. You simply just don't know that there are things happening inside of you that until you unmask it and put a ladle in the reservoir, this is what a journal speak practice is, and dump it out, you don't necessarily have control over your addictions. You don't necessarily have control over your behaviors or your thought patterns or your pain.
Thank you. So it's not our fault. We're not doing anything wrong. We're not broken.
No.
And if we have an obsession with body image, really what it is the brain going to something that feels familiar, safe, and perceived to be controllable versus the big reservoir of feelings that feels too big, too scary, too overwhelming, and uncontrollable.
Exactamundo.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up. I'm sitting here nodding feverishly as if I don't teach
I
all of
love
this
it.
and know all of
I
those
love
things.
it. She's like a bobblehead.
Okay, so here's a question I don't think I've ever asked you, but I'm curious to see what will come up because I know that this is something that we struggle with here in this community. And I also, before I get to it, I want to just draw out my visual of the whole landscape. We're talking about the TMS personality type, which is, the go-getters and the go-hards and the A+ gold star students and the perfectionists and things like that. We can both identify. So the TMS personality type, and you're also mentioning some OCD tendencies as kind of like a part of that, right? And where that's interesting to me is eating disorders fall under the umbrella of OCD, right? So you can see if you're listening to this, like the tendencies, just the energy around what creates some of what we're dealing with here, the whole kind of conglomerate. So here's my follow-up question. What we tend to struggle with is in this community, right? When it comes to body image and the beauty ideal and cultural
Mm,
ideas about all of that stuff, right? One of the biggest issues is it's not going anywhere,
right.
right? We're surrounded by it, whatever it is at the time, right? If we follow from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s to now, there's a lot of different beauty ideals, there's a lot of different messaging. And what keeps coming up is the messages that we are not safe if we're not looking a certain way or at a certain weight or in a certain body, right? So
Yes.
I'm curious, okay, with something that is ongoing, let's say I get to a point, right, where I'm not obsessing about my body image all day, every day, but I have to go out into the world where it feels like there's all these saber-toothed tigers about my body image and my weight. What's the mind your body approach to the ongoing work? Does that make sense?
It's such a fantastic question, and you're right, you haven't exactly asked me this before, but I think you'll find in my answer a familiarity to things we have discussed before. So, when in the 1990s and early 2000s, when I used to lecture with Dr. Sarno at NYU, one of the most commonly asked questions is someone would raise their hand and say, "All right, Dr. Sarno, I hear you. You're telling me that my partner, my boss, my kids, my mother, my financial situation is causing me to go over the edge with my repressed emotions. I'm here to tell you that that shit is not gonna change. I cannot put my kids up for adoption, you know, kill my mother, quit my job, divorce my partner, like, this is my life. How can I get out of pain when I'm always living within this? And so your question is the same question. And what Dr. Sarno said, and it was always so moving and brilliant for me, is you don't need to change anything about your life. You just need to be able to feel it so your nervous system knows it's not a predator. So, what's really magical and what I really want to say with confidence and with love to your community is if you feel like you can't get out of this cycle because you're like, I'm out in the world every day and then there's a magazine and then there's a TV show and then there's a whatever that's triggering me, but I am still self-sabotaging, or I'm still caught in my cyclical thinking and it's hurting me, what I would say is, you have no idea the power you have to feel different, to feel better, to affect your physical and emotional health. If you do this work, if you fight your resistance, and one thing I will say about this book is I spend chapters on preparing you to do the work. So the beginning is mind, body, medicine, and brain science explained. And then we go right into setting the scene. How can we get you in exactly the right place so when you do the work will be effective? So it's all about like ritual and consistency. It's about every type of resistance you will face. It's about knowing that you are going to struggle with setting boundaries because setting boundaries has felt selfish or unsafe. And let's talk about how. So it's all that stuff. So if you do this work and you do this work with the right mindset, you will be astonished at how differently you will meet life. And that's the magic. It's not about changing your life, and it's certainly not about changing society because society will change, but certainly at its own pace. And so all we can do is change ourselves. And in doing this work and in knowing how to go to those dark rooms and turning on the light and knowing how to put that ladle in the emotional reservoir and get it down so it's not at maximum density, you're going to walk right into a situation that used to trigger you. And guess what it's going to feel like? Nothing. Nothing. You might notice it. And what's also really delightful is when you go into situations that used to trigger you and you notice it and you're like, huh, look at that. I feel great. I didn't just get fatter because someone else was thin. I didn't just get uglier because someone else was beautiful. I didn't love my outfit today and now hate it because I saw someone that triggered. Like, I am me. I remain me. I know who I am. I can do the work to affect my body and my life if I choose or not, but I can stay in my center, and that is what this work does for you.
Amen.
Amen, hallelujah.
Amen. I mean, that's exactly the way I feel like, because people ask me all the time, we still see all these messages, and to me it's like, "Oh yeah. Yeah, it's out there, but because of doing work like this and getting into my own shit, I really see and experience over and over again whether or not I have access to inner peace, whether or not I feel safe in my own body is something that I have power over, because I
Yes.
can't leave that in the hands of the culture or the opinions and judgments of other people. I can just come back to my own peace and safety because I have the power to do that. So, thank you.
Yeah, and for all y'all out there, Lisa has done this work. Like,
Yeah.
I know you have many tools in your toolkit, but I have watched you. I have watched you do this work in really difficult times, and I mean that from, like, a very deep place. Like, I am thinking of one specific week several summers ago, and I remember your face because we FaceTime and you were cute little braids. Do you remember this week I'm talking
Of
about?
course,
In
coming out of the
in
hospital.
yeah, in
Yeah.
between 2 omegas, in
Mhm.
between 2 ferns, and I really, really know how you have been a warrior, and you have gone into the places that have been threatening your safety, a la your nervous system, and you have shown those places to the light, and you have recovered from symptom after symptom after symptom, and it is always equally joyful to watch.
Thank you. Thank you for seeing me. Yeah, that story, we only ever told that story on your podcast, but Nicole literally talked me off a ledge after coming back from being in the emergency room in the
Mhm.
hospital, with mysterious stomach pains, which was my MO. And and I remember what happened there, and this is a little kind of tidbit for anyone who hasn't heard this story, but I was in so much excruciating pain. It felt like my stomach was on fire.
I remember.
And you kept telling me to put pen to paper. And I
Mhm.
was kind of like, fuck you, but also fine. And so I did. and and I remember the biggest thing that happened was when I wrote the words, "You never let me out.
Mm.
You never let me out." And the context made so much sense out of that, which was I was just about to leave my childhood home for the first time in my life and move across the country. and start my adult life, basically. And my inner child came through so quick and with so much passion to let me know, you never let me out. And it just kept going and going and going. You've been playing like you've been an adult since you were 5 years old, and you never ever told anyone that you had feelings, and you were never vulnerable, and you never let yourself be seen, and you never
Yes.
let the walls down. And you just spent this whole entire time, quote unquote, not needing your mom. And now you're leaving. Now you're leaving and you've lost your chance. And now you
Right.
have to be an adult. And it just went on and on and on and on and on. And that was one of a couple major breakthroughs that happened for me with me doing your work with you. So,
Yeah. I remember, and I remember the transformation, and I remember you. I mean, it's so interesting. A lot of times in the work that we both do, you really get to witness people's personal transformations. But what's almost even more powerful and delightful is seeing the long-term transformations. Like, I look at you as a person and, all these years later, and it's like that every little thing was a building block into the freedom of self-expression and knowing thyself. And, pain is the biggest, littlest part. You know, Chronic IBS was a very real part of your life when I met you. I can't imagine it's much a part of your life now in terms of anything chronic. I mean, we all have, our bumps and bruises, but like it's it's more than that. It's so much more than that. You walk through the door of having a symptom and, I say to everybody all the time, I am not downplaying chronic symptoms. When you are in ill health for any reason, whether it be emotional or physical health, that's all there is. If you're too depressed to get out of bed, there is no let's go have a relationship. There is no what's the delicious meal in front of me. Like it's just that. When you have chronic back pain and you can barely function, it's just that and all the other things. But once you do the work and the pain signals stop firing, which they legitimately will if you do it the way I teach, then it's like, what's next? Your whole life is available to you. And then you can ask the bigger questions, what kind of relationships do I want to have? What kind of work do I want to do? What kind of future do I like? It's so this is like your life, It always just, like, overwhelms me, like, and this is why the whole book thing is so exciting for me because it is an opportunity to speak to people globally in a way I never have before because a podcast is great, okay? And I've had a podcast since 2018, and it has made a huge impact. But people will forward somebody one podcast, and they'll be like, "Oh, no, no, Nicole's talking, she's interviewing some about migraines. You have migraines, listen to this." But there's no way in a 45-minute interview to explain the A to Z about how to do this. And like, I have this thing now.
yeah.
I have this paper thing that all you have to do is buy one, which is of course inexpensive compared to buying lots of things, and every single thing you need to know is in it. So that is my deep joy and excitement of this day.
Huge joy, huge excitement. Very long time coming. Thank you. I share that with you. And thank you for seeing me. Where would I be if this work were not part of my life? Okay, Nicole, we could sit here forever. I could ask you a million questions about all the things. Is there anything else you want to share about where you are in this book? Anything that we haven't asked? Anything you want me to ask? Anything that's present for you right now, my friend?
Ah, Lisa, spoken like a true therapist. I guess the only thing I want to say that's a new thing to say is my partner, also of the same name, Lisa, who Lisa, who is interviewing me, knows. She and I got together a couple years ago, 2.5 years ago now, and we decided that we wanted to take what was the cure for chronic pain and say, what else does it need to be? Like, what is the real essential question that we're asking here? And what we're really asking and what we're really trying to answer for people is how can I live my very best, most actualized life? Of course, the first part of that is I cannot be in chronic pain of any kind. So whether it be, you know, the the syndrome of the moment, which is long COVID, which I've done tons and tons of work. If you are a person who has experienced long COVID or know someone, please send them to my podcast. I have episode after episode, and I have 2 really impactful stories in this book about it as well. A total recovery, and it is possible for you too. But whether it be that or all the other symptoms we're talking about, or like I said, just a lack of joy for life, that's first. The reason my original brand was called The Cure for Chronic Pain is it is necessary to deal with whatever it is that ails you before you can be open to anything else. So it starts there, and my website and my offerings are all there for that. But what Lisa and I decided is we wanted to look at the bigger picture. What happens? What do you use to fill that vacuum when all this, energy of doctors and supplements and elimination diets and, all that stuff is no longer a reality for you. And so we started brainstorming. We came up with the concept of your breakaway. And it's like the concept started, which is we need to break from old paradigms to wake up to everything that is available for us. So the only other thing I'd want to say that I probably haven't said to your audience is we rebranded our whole website to add so many experiences. It's yourbreakawake.com. You can also get there from NicoleSachs.com. But the reason I'm telling you that is because there's so much for everybody. Like, I want so badly for people to not only rise through their chronic pain, but just what do we need to break free from? What do we need to wake up to? And so that's another exciting thing in my life right now is just taking what we've created, and we're adding so much content, and we're allowing people an opportunity to like really change your life. This is your life. I'm a spiritual person. I am not sure if we go through this many, many, many times. I have no proof, but I know one thing for sure. This is the one life I get as Nicole Sachs with my children and my body and my sense of humor and my, you know, appetite for life, whatever I am. This is it. And it's like, this is it for you too. And I just want people to not have to live with any sort of limits if they don't have to. So there's my little passion for the moment.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's so cool to hear you talk about it. And where my head goes with that, for the people that are listening to this, it's very reminiscent to me of the entire out of the cave kind of model and message, right? It's like,
Yes.
especially when it comes to disordered eating and eating disorders, for a lot of people, the reason that that takes up so much time and space and energy and focus is because it works, it's comfortable, it's familiar. But then there's a huge question of if I'm not thinking about every single calorie I eat and every single step I take, or how much I hate myself because of what I look like, then what do I do?
What?
Like,
Yes.
who am I? What do I do? What do I focus on? What do I work on? What do I spend my time and energy doing? And that's a huge question that exists for a lot of people that we're not conscious of that question. We're not conscious of the fact that we don't know who we are without our eating disorder. We don't know who we are without body image issues. But that's a huge part of it. So just having that, the inspiration of the idea of breaking awake and again, coming out of the cave and being like, these are all
Yes.
the things that I want to leave behind. I don't want to live in this anymore. And having a place to go and resources and tools and a community that are waking up to that. And ultimately, it's not just about to me, it's moving out of survival and into thrival. It's like, all right, cool. The
Yes.
pain, the pain is gone. You're no longer hating yourself every second of the day, but what if we start
Now
to
what?
enjoy things while we're here? And I
Yeah.
feel like I've seen that a lot in both of you and I as people. Like over the last few years, it's like there's a lot of fun and like joy and play and love and connection, and like it's not just getting by. And it
I
turns out
know.
when there's not stuff getting in the way, like we can actually really enjoy our time here.
I know, and it's crazy, and there's also the flip side of that while we're talking about it, which is so many people have told me that one of the realizations they come to when they're kind of like they've gotten into this work and they're doing it is, "Maybe I'm terrified to be better. because of all that open space. And maybe I'm terrified to lose weight because of all the attention I'll get. And like, it's such a beautiful realization. So we can work with that,
Yes.
but it's like it just takes you on the ride and for you to be awake and aware as you are doing this, that all of this is coming and that there are tools and there is support. And like you said, community, like I have a membership community and like I don't know if do you do that stuff, membership? Like, it's like when you have people that we meet every month and we spend time together, it's, like, so exciting to watch people be able to ask these essential questions and then to transform and to buoy each other and lift each other. This is a movement. This
Yeah.
is like a global village, like, for real, more than anything I've ever seen, and it's remarkable. It's beautiful to watch it come together.
Yes. I love it.
Yes.
I'm so excited for you. Thank you. And I'm gonna just add, I remember when I started your course years ago. And I think it's what, the first one, the first
It's called
prompt.
freedom from chronic pain. Freedom from
Yes.
chronic pain. Yes.
And it's the first prompt or the first question is about thinking about who could you be? What could your life look like without your pain? And I remember that a lot of people had shared after that, "Oh my god, I could do this, I could go there. These are all the exciting things." And Lisa Schlossberg, my whole answer was, I don't know, and I'm terrified to find out.
Yep.
I don't know what it would be like. I don't know who I would be. I don't know what I would do. And I think that's why I really relate to, that fear. But I also love what you always say, that is, it's not an epidemic of pain, it's an epidemic of fear. So that's a
Yes.
really, really beautiful place to start, being
That's
aware
right.
of your fear.
And as soon as you're aware, like, it's the whole thing about the monster in the closet. Like, as soon as you turn on the light, like, allow it to be unmasked, and that's the first step, and then you step through that door, and it's like a portal into everything that is available to you, and the best part about this work and everything that I teach is it's bite-sized steps. Like, this is not you do not have to figure anything out, and you don't have to try to change, and you don't have to be in charge. Left foot, right foot, breathe. Do the next right considered action. I lay it all out for you in the book. Do it, and then remember, oh god, you're too young. You're a different generation. There used to be this whole thing in I think it was in the '80s or even the '70s where they had this commercial and it was like, "Set it and forget it." And I think it was something about, like, cooking. Maybe it was like a crock pot. There's gonna be someone listening to this and it's like, "No, Nicole, that was a totally incorrect reference." But it was "Set it and forget it." And I feel like that is one of the things that's really beautiful about this work, which is you do what needs to be done, but then go off and enjoy your life. You do the
Yes.
practice, you do your journal speak, you meditate, you practice some self-compassion, you listen to a podcast, you read a chapter of a book, you immerse yourself in the material, and then you go off and live your life and then and then like, let's say you used to get 10 migraines a month and you go through 2 weeks and you're like, "Wait, I've only gotten 1 migraine." Like you start to realize that the brain is resetting itself, the neural pathways are rewiring. Like this isn't something you need to figure out. This has been figured out for you. You just need to do it.
Yes. Oh, great. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So wrap up with telling me like details. How do I pre-order? What do I get if I pre-order? What's the situation right now?
Yeah, so the situation is, and I just learned this in the world of publishing as I am walking through it like a newborn baby. Pre-orders are everything because pre-orders determine the run of the book. And so I'm really, grateful for the support of people pre-ordering it. It does come out on February 4th, which is when you will receive it, but if you pre-order it now, we have 2 different tiers of these, like, very special giveaways that we've created. The first is if you order 1 book, you get a ticket to Mind Your Body Con, which is, an event I am creating for the end of February, date TBD, but it will be recorded for anyone who can't make it, in all time zones. And we are going to do a virtual book club with me at the helm. We are going to go through the book. I'm going to teach it. I'm going to bring in guest teachers to teach it. You might be invited, and if you're willing. And we're just going to create a whole experience where like all the frequently asked questions get answered, and like we move through the material. So It's going to give you a few weeks. Once you've pre-ordered, you get the book, you'll have it for a few weeks, and then we're going to have this event, and only people that pre-order will be invited to it. So it will be exclusive in that way. And if you would like to join the movement and buy 3 books or more to give them to your friends, to, maybe give them to a couple people and to do it together like a collective, journal speak book club experience, we are giving away a second event that will only be for the movement, the creators of movement, and we are going to do a special event probably right after the holidays in January before the book comes out with like some notable special guests, people that I have interviewed, people who are doing the work. Some there might be some performances, there might be some interesting special surprises, but just like a more intimate experience of being with the material with people that are it's exciting. It's exciting to be with people who you thought you knew because you knew them out there. Maybe they have some public persona and like they're really willing to be vulnerable. This work really teaches you that we are all human and we're all just the same. So we're going to have a little event like that and really just continue to carry on the movement and to remind people that this is not just about me and this is not about Lisa. This is about all of us. And the more people that know about this, the more that we can change the face of the medical model because we need this work. One thing I'll say just to close is that haven't even told you this yet. I've just been invited by an oncologist to be part of a study where some people will go through the treatment for their breast cancer with traditional chemotherapy and radiation, which I completely agree with and support. I'm not a person who doesn't believe in Western medicine. That will be the control group, and the experimental group will be going through the same exact protocol, but with my work and a couple other really notable mind body practitioners. And it's going to be a really like very big study. And I am really excited because we have the power, all of us, to carry this message and to create awareness in the medical model of how transformative this work is. So moving and shaking, it's all happening.
Ooh, thank you. Wow. Congratulations. I'm really,
Thank
really
you.
so happy for you. All of this
And
is so
all
huge.
the things I mentioned, they can just get by going to NicoleSachs.com and clicking on pre-order, and, like, you'll see exactly how to sign up for the events, and everything's spelled out for you.
Beautiful. Okay. You heard it here. Thank you, Nicole. Thanks for coming. Thank you for bringing your
Lisa,
message and your mission to the whole entire world. Thank you for letting
I
me be a part of it.
I love you. I love watching you shine in this world, and thank you for having me.
Until next time, my friend.